What's poppin'? What's poppin'? Yeah, welcome to my new spot. Y'all will see a lot of angles of this place as you watch my videos. If you watch the video with the protests, about the protests, I filmed that in here. The last couple were filmed in here. So, as y'all saw the headline, right? Y'all saw what we here to talk about. We're here to talk about what's going on with Usher and LaRussell. That is the other person on the cover. If you did not recognize him, I'll talk about who both of them are. I don't need to introduce you to Usher. Anyway, so the hook here, right, is that obviously a lot of people have talked about both LaRussell situation and Usher situation already. I'm not breaking new ground in certain ways, but there are things I have to add that I think benefits from how much time I spent sitting on this. I don't do breaking news. When things happen, I'm like, I gotta make a live video and tell everybody what I think. Like, I don't, most of the time I don't care, especially when it comes to celebrities, pop culture. I could not care less. I promise y'all. But when there's like a bigger point to make about society, about politics, about the way people interact with each other, and destructive forces, scam forces in society that have negative outcomes, or scammy, sketchy forces. That's when I feel like I want to say something. My opinion is not necessary, but I'm glad all of y'all are here to take it in. So why not start with Usher? That's the big one. It's the big ticket. That's what the biggest artist in this conversation. Let me start with this one. That's young Usher. This picture will come back. I just figured this was the funniest one to start with. So this was 1994, by the way. I was 4 years old. So when I met Usher, I've met Usher 2 times. He spoke at my freshman year orientation at Georgia Tech. And back then, he was with his original wife, the black one. I don't know if y'all remember that one. She was nice. I met him and his wife in our dining hall at Georgia Tech in passing. And most recently, I met him like a month ago when I interviewed Gavin Newsom. And so I'll throw up pictures of both of those instances. This was when I interviewed Gavin Newsom. I was in the back with all the security guards and whatnot. And out of nowhere, Usher and his wife just walk in the back door. And so all these other creators are at this event and they're all hanging out in the front and they don't know Usher's here. So at this point, I'm the only one who knows because he just walked in the door straight in front of me and so did his wife. I greeted him real quick. I greeted his wife and, Usher's a superstar. So he meets people all the time. There's no way, of course, he's going to remember me. He doesn't remember me now. There's no way. It's not possible for him to remember me now. But all I said was, hey, I'm a big fan. I appreciate your music. It's nice to meet you. My name's Cam James. And I introduced myself to his wife as well. And I just waited for him to surprise everybody else. And I'll show y'all that pic as well, because there's a few from that event. And what's funny is, how things change, right? Because there was I'm a huge Usher fan. Like I've been a Usher fan for my entire life as far as like my appreciation of music, because he's been a music star for my entire life. He's been famous ever since I've been alive, right? And that's something that is hard to really grapple with when someone says something or does something that is just unequivocally bad. You know what I'm saying? Like when they say something that kind of betrays that they're really out of touch, or that they really don't get what's happening in the moment, right? That's yours truly in the back left, and that's Gavin Newsom with Usher. And these are all the other creators that were at the event with me. I was interviewing Gavin Newsom in that back room to the left, right? And I was the only person in Atlanta during that stop that actually got to interview Gavin Newsom. So that's a whole different story. That's on my politics channel. If y'all didn't know that exists, y'all can watch it. But when I interviewed Gavin, for those who are new here, I criticized him in that video. So a lot of y'all are like, oh, I hate Gavin Newsom. Look, I understand, and I have plenty of smoke for him as well, and I delivered a lot of really fair criticism of him in that video. So go watch that if you haven't seen it yet. I'm dropping the link to my politics channel in the chat. Hopefully that link works. I typed it in wrong. I think he's no. I think we both maybe those both work. I don't know. The YouTube links are hard to remember how to type in. But yeah, there's a lot of issues with Gavin. So I listed those in that video. Go watch that if you have the time. It's very underseen because everybody dislikes that man. But anyway, I was at this event hosted by like Live Nation Urban and a couple of other entities that brought us all together and gave me the chance to interview him, but also just Usher randomly showed up because Gavin was in town. So that's the brief story on how and shout out to Diara for this question, Diara for this question. I actually will be talking to labor organizers. I'm trying to put that together. But every now and then I need to talk to somebody that pulls in audiences, but also to challenge them, right? Like somebody needs to list the things that Gavin Newsom does that aren't the most popular or the best if he's going to be the front runner. But anyway, moving on. Definitely when I met Usher, we need to progress to telling this story. And like I said, when I met him, it was just like okay, I don't make a big deal about celebrities. Both of them are famous. I had a job to do. It is what it is. They come and they go, and then I move on, and I got to do what I got to do. But the main controversy, in case you haven't heard, is that Usher defended Diddy in an interview with Forbes. And I'm going to show y'all clips from that interview that I've picked out and talk about the combination of the things I've researched and the implications of the things Usher's saying, because it goes beyond that one quote, right? I watched the entire interview. A lot of people, if you actually go to the interview on Forbes' page, it doesn't even have that many views. Like in this landscape, people clip one clip out of an interview and they shoot it around the internet, and the original interview doesn't even get viewed that much. And that's insane. You would think that curiosity would naturally draw people back to the original interview to watch it. But I watched all 48 minutes of it and took notes. And I'm not saying we're going to go through all of that right now, but we're going to go through pieces of it and talk about like the implications of some of the things he said. So let's drop this music down, and I'm going to throw up Usher.
What's it like being Usher in 2000?
That is further into the video I want to start. We'll start at the beginning. Let's get it.
I guess at this juncture of my life, I'm thinking legacy. I'm thinking about the things and the investments that I can make that will mature in 25 years from now. It is the notion that to whom much is given, more is given. So, in the same light of, the career that I have been able to build, if the investment that I made in it is any indication of what could potentially happen as a result of us investing in youth, 14 and older, look at what it could become. But they got to have the resources. They have to have the opportunity. They have to have a new look from the environments that they are already in.
Okay, so context, right? In this interview with Forbes, was first off, let's start off talking about Forbes, right? Forbes Forbes and this show, which was called, let me pull up the name of the show, The Enterprise Zone. So that's the show that he was sitting down with Forbes. This show exists to glaze capitalism. Like it's stocks, it's investments, it's rich people, it's how did you get rich, how are you staying rich, and also giving them a platform to essentially pat themselves on the back for philanthropy as a rich person. That's what's happening in this interview. He made a $1 million donation or investment in the Boys and Girls Club in Detroit. And he's piggybacking actually off of an investment that Big Sean made that was also in Detroit. That's where he's from, with the Boys and Girls Clubs as well. So Usher put up $1 million and he's sitting down at the Boys and Girls Club, I believe that's the location that they're talking at, to discuss the legacy of it, discuss what it means and how he sees it. And he mentioned that he sees it as like a seed, right? To push other people with resources to join in. And look, I'm not knocking the investment itself. I want that to be clear. I think, beneficial philanthropy can come from a lot of sources. It can come from those who are clearly, rich and have the resources and all that good stuff, but it can also come from people at the organizer level, at the grassroots level. And as long as the money is used correctly and not misappropriated, it's a good thing that that money's being put up at all. To my knowledge, the Boys and Girls Clubs do great work. So that's what the meat of this interview was about. But that first comment, what I want to draw attention to is that he brought up legacy. This is the first time he brought it up, and it's very early in the interview. It's like 10 minutes in. And what he's been quoted of saying about Diddy is legacy. We're going to get to that quote later, but this is the first time he mentioned it, and he's talking about his donations. He's talking about his investments in the community, and the connection between these two things is kind of helping us put ourselves in Usher's frame of mind, right? He's on the tail end of his career. He's focused on the impact he can leave behind him, mentoring people. He talks a lot in this interview about mentorship and what he's trying to do through that. And so this helps give us context when he says legacy later and what he means by it. It shows you what matters to him, right? So keep that in mind. What matters to Usher as we continue to go through these quotes.
What's it like being Usher in 2026?
I mean, it all depends on which portion you're talking. I mean,
The one that everybody knows and adores.
there's some pressure that comes with it, and there's some expectation that comes with this space that I'm in, because I'm not chasing anything anymore. I'm now engineering. I'm now at a place where I'm looking for more of what I am. I'm looking to inspire the young people who thought like I did when I was 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm looking outward. I'm not looking in. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know what I offer. I know what I'm capable of doing.
So that adds more context to my point, right, about what frame of mind he's in this part of his life. I can't relate to being where he is in his career or his age. He's 11 years older than me. And like I said, he's been famous like my whole life, damn near. So it's hard. I think it's hard for anybody watching this to put themselves in that frame of reference. So almost nobody can relate as far as career milestones go. But this is where he's coming from with the investment, but also with his comments later. Whereas I think when he says he's not looking inward, I think that reflects, unfortunately, a lack of situational awareness that's going to show its head later, and it's going to show a lack of introspection that's also going to show its head later. Because I don't think someone who's looking internally to the extent that you should would say what he's going to say later about someone like Diddy.
When you think about your career and you had to sum it up in one word,
Ordained.
ordained. Why ordained?
It was meant to happen. It was called by a higher source. I think if we're obedient to the thing that is sometimes the quietest part of us, the most humble part of us, there's something brilliant and genius in that. It's just trusting it. When something ain't right, you'll hear it. But sometimes we'll just ignore it, like, nah, maybe it's just my fears. If it's not right, you gotta listen to it.
So the reason I pulled up that clip was ordained, right? Like y'all caught that. And obviously that's a religious reference. It implies, even though Usher does not mention God once in this interview, but the word ordained is a religious term. It implies that he's a religious person. And that's also going to play into his state of mind and his comments later. I don't think you can say the things he said about Diddy and not be influenced by Christianity. There's a heavy undertone of having to, like literally having to forgive some of the most monstrous people we've encountered in our society that's backed by religion. Christians preach that you're able to be forgiven for your sins if you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior. I don't want to get too heavy bogged down into the religion side of things, but when that's your core belief, I do believe you're a Christian. I did that research. when that's part of your foundational beliefs, it tends to lend itself to being able to overlook some of the worst things committed by other people, right? So that's why I included that. We need to know where his mind's at.
Sean Combs,
Sean Combs, legacy.
legacy. I asked that because when I was researching you, I found this interview from 2015, I believe, or maybe even further, where it was in Philly. It was during your
Yeah.
UR tour, and I'm listening to it, and it said, all of the things that were going on in New York at that time. I quote, "I knew better. Maybe it was those valuable lessons in integrity in Tennessee, and furthermore, I knew what the hell I wanted. I didn't want to go to New York for the experience. I wanted a career, right? I could have gotten to a lot of stuff, but I chose a different road. I had a plan. I had a focus, right? I wanted to get it done, and you avoided a lot of the negativity that we obviously know shows up in his story today. Young kids, how do you talk to them about avoiding that negative like you did because you had your path?"
I mean, this might be a bit controversial, but in the same way, I think many people choose to look past the reality of what our country is, the standards that we now stand on. We can't ignore the reality of the history, but in many ways, I think certain people are prosecuted and maybe not recognized for the greatness, that they offer.
All right, yeah, we're gonna stop there. um, full screen me. This shit is ridiculous. Like it's already ridiculous. This is bad. So I took notes on this. Let me organize my thoughts. So let me give y'all the context leading up to these comments, right? Context matters. It always matters. No matter what clip you're seeing float around the internet, all of it matters. If there's anything y'all take away from this, stop watching clips on the internet and then typing out your comments. Like, stop it. Even if you're right, get the context first and maybe revisit it with a more complete idea of where they're coming from, where they are, and then talk about it. I think the world would be a much better place if we all got context. That being said, this is some fuck shit, and I'm gonna go into why it's some fuck shit. So after playing some word association with regard to his career, the interviewer continued to ask, name, drop one word to associate with that person. So he mentioned his mom. He mentioned like L.A. Reid. He mentioned other influential people, Jermaine Dupri, people who are like close to him, figures that helped form his career, helped get him where he is, right? And so he dropped, brother for Jermaine Dupri. He dropped brother for like this other guy, I forgot his name, that helped with his foundation work. And so it was name. I'll give the interviewer props for this. I'm about to take away some props later, but I'll give the interviewer props for this. I think that was a very clever way to work in Sean Combs and not have it be like a bomb that's dropped. That was clever. That was some tricky shit. Very, very well done. But that's what led to Sean Combs. It didn't start there. Sean Combs wasn't even the last name, or was he the last name? I think because the answer was so long for Sean Combs, that was the last name. So drop Sean Combs. Now we're at the start of the comment. Now, with very little hesitation, Usher says legacy. Already problematic. That's already hiding a lot of things that should maybe go first. And the first statement he puts out there is that people are prosecuted. Already we're generalizing. We're talking about Sean Combs. Who the hell else we're talking about? Like, people are not prosecuted. Usually criminals are prosecuted. And I think generalizing Diddy, along with this nebulous group of people, is already disassociating the man from his crimes, and it's deeply irresponsible because you're already talking in like conspiracy theory talk. Like, I think they take down our black heroes. You're already in that space when you start getting third person with it. We're not talking about people. We're talking about Diddy. So that's problem number one. And not recognized for the greatness they offer is how he ended that segment. I think, contrary to that statement, I think Diddy has been very celebrated in our culture for the things he's contributed to hip hop before all this went down. And while this was all going down behind the scenes, because this has been going on for a long time, as I'm going to get into later, it's been going on for a very long time. But even when everybody didn't know about it, he was being celebrated. He was still winning awards. He was still bringing up other artists and putting them on and all this stuff, well, pretending to put them on. All of that was happening. So he's been celebrated enough. Now is not the time for this shit.
I don't have anything negative to say about Sean Combs because my experience was not what the world has seen and how he's been, misrepresented. I'm not saying that every man is perfect. I'm not saying that all of us don't have flaws, but I can't, with any sense of humanity, not recognize the valuable contributions that this man made.
Nah, dog. Nah, dog. This ain't it. This ain't it. This ain't it. So my experience was not what the world has seen. This is worse. This is worse because I think this is the time where we dive into what Usher has said, and the first knock I have to give to this interviewer, because look, I've been in interviewing situations with people that are prominent, they have a lot of clout, they're famous, whatever, and granted, I don't always ask the hard questions, but if you're going to touch that topic, or I haven't always asked them in the past, but when you touch that topic, you can't do it and not do it. Like if you're going to bring up Sean Combs, you can't dance around it and allow Usher to just blast all these cherry blossoms out. Like you can't do that, bro. You have to bring some actual facts to the table. And when the interviewer mentioned that he did some research onto a 2015 interview, he shouldn't have said that, because I also did some research, and so did a lot of people who watched this back. And one thing that they discovered was that Usher stayed with Diddy when he was a teenager, when he was like 15. L.A. Reid sent Usher to stay with Diddy for months. Like, thank you, Emery, for months. If not a little bit longer than months. But it's like a camp. It was called like let me get the details right. I'm gonna share the article that I found, because this. So if y'all can see that, Usher admitted he would never let his children stay with Diddy. This was on Howard Stern. The year that the interview happened is not super important, but this article was published in 2024, and it was called the Puffy Flavor Camp. So start there. L.A. Reid sent Usher to a Puffy Flavor Camp because he couldn't figure out like what single to drop for Usher after his first release, right? And he says he was 14 at the time. So a prepubescent boy or a pubescent boy being sent to live with Diddy and go to a Puffy Flavor Camp. I don't know how much L.A. Reid knew at the time, granted, but it was already happening, as you're going to see soon. So it was 2016 when Usher met with Howard Stern. So that was the year. And his first quote about it was that it was pretty wild. It was crazy. There were curious things taking place, curious. And I didn't necessarily understand it. He's going to get into more details later. But remember, he said he wouldn't let his sons stay with him. So like when he was asked if he would ever send his children to Puffy Flavor Camp, he said, hell no. And I'm going to show you the reason why he said hell no. Those are his two kids. One of them looks a lot more like him than the other. Two of his multiple kids. That's the picture I showed y'all earlier. It's about the age in 1994 where he was like living with Diddy. Whew. Nasty stuff. So he was signed to LaFace, as a lot of people know. That's how L.A. Reid comes into the picture in 1993 and released a single, Call Me a Mac. And so he sent him to P. Diddy because he wanted him to be more edgy. He asked him to give him some of his flavor. And all this sounds bad in retrospect, but like I'm sure L.A. Reid was just like, look, this guy's a successful musician. And hopefully he can teach the kid how to be like a edgy R&B singer. So like, let's. Ellie Reed is a terrible person in a lot of other ways in the music business, but I'm not putting allegations on him. But they cover his crimes. In case y'all forgot, 120 victims have come forward against Diddy already, and that's why all these documentaries have been produced and why we're here today. Why this is such a big deal. I saw somebody in the chat asking why this situation is worth all this energy. This is why. This is a pretty big deal. And so let's get to the maturation of teenage boys. So Usher was 15 years old, but nothing about him ever seemed juvenile. That's not okay. Children are children. All this like he seemed old for his age. She seemed mature for her age. Cut that shit out. We do that specifically to black men. We do that a lot. We age them up beyond their years. A 15-year-old boy is a 15-year-old boy. The apparent maturity doesn't change anything. It's like when people date, it's usually women dating older people when they're in high school, right? And the comment is always, "Oh, girls are mature for their age. That's normal." No, it's not. Someone in their 20s who thinks they're mature is not mature. Just scientifically, they're not mature. Like literally, they haven't matured. The lobes of the brain are not there yet. So this whole attitude we have is of that it's okay. No, no, it's not. And he said, I was turning him over to the wildest party guy in the country at an age when I still needed to get his mother's permission. I mean, it seems like you knew. You know what I'm saying? It seems like you knew. And he didn't know whether he was being irresponsible or having an epiphany. I mean, that tells you you're being irresponsible by definition. I don't. So we see Usher with Diddy. We see Usher with L.A. Reid on the left and Bieber, who is Usher's protege, on the right. And this is so he said the curious things taking place, right? We're gonna get specific about the curious things. He said in 2004 in a Rolling Stone interview that Diddy introduced him to a totally different set of shit, sex specifically. He said, "Sex is so hot in the industry, man. There was always girls around. You'd open the door and see somebody doing it, or several people in a room having an orgy. You never knew what was gonna happen." Yeah. Yikes. Yikes. That's a lot. So like um I say that to say there's there's a lot of things that people speculate about in the music industry that happens with young stars and what they're exposed to and what happens to them. And I think this is enough, right? This is enough of an admission that at the bare minimum, Usher was subjected to situations that no teenager should ever be subjected to. He was in a highly inappropriate environment. At the best case scenario, he was he was thrown into a highly adult, highly sexualized environment way too early, and that's true of a lot of black men. It was true of me when I was a teenager. Like I can not relate obviously to popping open doors and seeing orgies, but I was exposed to sex at too early of an age, sexual influences at too early of an age, and it happens to a lot of young men. We prematurely age them up and expose them to these situations that they shouldn't be in. And for some people, it's a story that they tell, right? But for other people, it dramatically affects them. It affects their love lives. It affects the way they see the world. And I think, in my opinion, I'm not psychoanalyzing anybody. I don't have a degree in psychology. But in my opinion, it almost has to be a contributing factor to why someone would defend a serial sexual abuser in this way. I don't think you can do that as casually as Usher just did it in this interview without things like that altering the way you see sex and the sex parties that Diddy had and the outright abuse that he engaged in with his partner. Like, I'm not giving him an excuse either. I just think this is a contributing factor. So I had to bring it up, but I also had to bring it up because the interviewer didn't mention that. If you're bringing up old interviews and you forget the fact that Usher said he wouldn't let his kids stay with this man, you're missing a pretty important part of this, right? Like you're missing a pretty crucial ingredient. That's to me is irresponsible interviewing.
For us as black entrepreneurs, for us as businessmen, for us as people who transition, culture and ideas into something that's tangible and becomes business. So many people benefited from what he created, and I acknowledge that, and that's why I see him as legacy.
So the selective acknowledgement. When you say you acknowledge that, like you choose to acknowledge one part of someone's legacy, it's like me saying that I choose to acknowledge OJ as a somebody asked for closed captions. Can we throw those on? Taiwan, I've never tried to do it before. If we can make that happen, please do. I don't even know if that works in real time, but let's try to do that for the people that are watching that may need that. But what I was saying was it was like me saying O.J. Simpson was a great football player, and just refusing to acknowledge everything else that he's been implicated in and what he's most famous for. Honestly, at this point, it's like overlooking MJ's clearly strange behavior with children, just because he's one of the best musicians of all time. Same with R. Kelly, right? Like it's irresponsible at a certain point to miss giant sections of a person's legacy that are kind of integral to how the public receives them and perceives them. You can't just skip over this stuff. It is necessary to bring that up. Just like I'll say the same thing. I'm the biggest Kobe fan there was while he was alive, but you can't leave out his legacy of pretty much admitting to sexually assaulting somebody. Like that is that's not okay. That's irrevocably wrong. It's incontrovertibly wrong. And you don't get to preserve one aspect of someone's legacy just because you like what they do and you like their profession, and that's not how this works. Choosing to acknowledge one thing and ignoring 120 alleged victims with security camera footage of him beating Cassie. Come on, son. Like, you can't do that. It's deeply irresponsible, and you're a person who calls himself a mentor, who says that you have this impact on the next generation that you want to leave. It's extremely disappointing. And thank you, E66IU. Yeah, Taiwan said we'll get captions for the next stream. Apologies for not working that out for this one. We'll figure it out. I don't think we've ever done that before, but I make custom captions for all my videos and subtitles. So I see you, I hear you, and we'll make that happen for y'all. Some E66IU said they used to be the biggest fan of Karl Malone, and I think that's an important one for me to mention. Karl Malone is a rapist. He's a statutory rapist. He raped a teenager as a professional NBA player. Like, he wasn't like in college when this happened. He was an NBA player, and he was in the NBA like all-time 75 best players or whatever. And like, granted, he probably belongs in that class if not for raping a child, right? Like, that's the problem here. Like, we can't continue to celebrate these people. And I'm going to come back to that because Usher does another celebration of a person towards the end of this that is not okay. Anyway, let's return to Mr. Raymond.
Puff was a mentor, but he was like you have that really, really hard teacher, but you're watching something in real time. I think that the idea of the level of discipline that came with that time in business, especially in an era that was trying to prove itself culturally in hip hop. Now, you can't turn on the television and not see the influence of hip hop.
That's right.
But the people who actually made that appropriate and are the forefathers are people like Sean Combs. And not just in the great times that they had musically, but in the idea of being able to to find ways to monetize culture, and create something that was not just black or white. It was colorless. It was green. That's who I see that man as. And that's what I choose to remember. I put respect on his name because I realized that, what I learned as a businessman, before I even understood what business was, came as a result of seeing the incredible things that he was able to do.
Yeah, man. This is this is dark. This is dark. I think it's like there's a lot of ways this interview could have gone, right? Like you can get in front of Forbes or whoever and handpick your interviewers and whatever these celebrities tend to do. I've had to be in those situations before, and you can give this fluff answer about a person you've always looked up to and worked with and whatever. But this is the worst possible version of this response, right? Because he just kept digging the hole deeper. He didn't stop at, it's complicated and well, he didn't even do that. Like he didn't even acknowledge really the harm. He just kind of brushed it off as nobody's perfect. That is bullshit. It's absolute bullshit, and the smoke is deserved. Every single iota of smoke that Usher has gotten for this interview is deserved. This is deeply irresponsible. Every single word he chose to formulate and put out of his mouth about Diddy was dismissive of all these women and men's pain, dismissive of their accounts, basically acting like none of it happened, and choosing to instead to focus on the monetization of music and culture. He literally said monetization of culture like it's a good thing. Like there's not a lot of gentrification in that. Like there's not a lot of exploitation in that. He even mentioned in this same interview how his first contract was exploitative via LaFace. And he refuses to connect the dots to the fact that, turning hip hop into just green and monetizing all of it is not this like oasis of great outcomes. TLC got milked by that same ecosystem for years. Like people he's collaborated with, people he's friends with were used up and abused by that system. This is like the most pro-capitalist salvo disguised as respect for a mentor that I've ever seen. Like it's bad. It's like this is worse than anything I think Jay-Z said in his recent interview. That was a bunch of capitalist bullshit too. But what Usher just said is the peak of irresponsibility. And Taiwan asked in the chat a little while ago that about like if this changed your view on Usher. And for those who know, to T and Poetry's point, for those who know, what went down with the exploitation of Bieber and Usher kind of contributing to putting Bieber in those same kind of situations himself. It shouldn't, but like to me, I wasn't even fully informed on what happened with Bieber until I dug deeper into this, right? And so I still saw, as most recently as I met Usher for the second time, I still saw him as somebody that was like a music icon and who I respected, whose work I respected, and who I was happy to see, when he walked into the room. But finding out more about what happened with Bieber and then him saying this in this interview really illuminated some things for me. I'm not a person who looks up to celebrities in the first place, as I mentioned to y'all. I just respect their work, like them for whatever they've accomplished in their field. I'm a huge R&B head, so Usher was one of my favorite artists, and I can no longer call him that. I don't look up to anybody that isn't my dad, but I can't, appreciate his work separately from the person he's shown himself to be, because I don't separate the work from the artist. I don't think that's something anybody should do. And I'll end this section on Usher by saying that at the end of his interview, towards the end of his interview, he was asked which artists, in 2026 that he's listening to that he appreciates. And he mentioned Kehlani. She had that whole Folded run that won her a Grammy. Like, great stuff. Love Kehlani. But she's been problematic in the past as well. So I guess I can't say I love her either. I don't know how that shook out with the kind of abuse thing that she was accused of. So y'all inform me on what happened with that. but her music I've always been a fan of, right? And then he went to I think he named somebody else first. No, he moved to Chris Brown right after that. So just we're just lining up abusers now. And I know they're prior collaborators. I know they made New Flame together all those years back and all that type of stuff. But come on, son. It never ceases to amaze me how all these capitalists stick together. Like all these people at the pinnacle of their fields who have employees and ecosystems that work for them continue to lift each other up when they're doing heinous things. I'm not going to fill y'all in on everything Chris Brown has done, but it didn't stop at hitting one person. And in case anybody in the chat thought that was the case, no, that's not. No, this man's a serial abuser and kind of always has been. And even beyond that, like blatantly disrespects women in his music. To me, that matters. To y'all, that might not matter. But anyway, moving on. The co-signing of abusers in the music industry time and time and time again is a trend. It's a pattern that those of us who pay attention have noticed, and it's getting really, really annoying at this point. Like I'm sick of this shit. So that's Usher. I'm gonna move on to the second co-star of this video, LaRussell. And I'm gonna, less of an intro. A lot of y'all don't know who LaRussell is, but anybody who's tapped into hip hop has at least heard his name. Probably he's like, the savior of the Bay, so to speak. He's a big rapper to them. Like he's important to them. Like culturally, he's important to the Bay. I met him. I created a startup with 3 other guys years back that I got kicked out of. That video was early in my YouTube run, so find that on my page after this if you want. We may drop the link to it. But I got kicked out of my own startup, right? And long story there. But when we started it, we moved out to Tulsa, to Black Wall Street. And there was like a startup accelerator there. So we got funded. We got over $1 million in funding to start this company where we worked with live streaming technology. And I was responsible as the musician, the only musician on the board. I was responsible for running the audio visual equipment and setting up the streams for the concerts and working with venue owners and stuff like that. So like that was a big job and I did my best. But while we were doing all that, one of the highlights was throwing events to draw attention to our company, right? We would throw concerts, festivals, that type of thing. We only threw like one festival, but a lot of concerts, like a lot. I performed in one of them. As the founder of the company, I performed in one of the concerts to like kind of keep that energy up as one of the co-headliners. But we brought LaRussell to Tulsa, along with Rhapsody and some other artists that were like Fire in Little Africa. They're a big collective out of Tulsa, the Greenwood district. If y'all know anything about that area, Fire in Little Africa is like a really, really talented collective of rappers, singers. And so all of them were on the lineup. Great show. But LaRussell was like the second co-headliner along with Rhapsody, right? And I met him in passing. I just met him, like dapped him up, talked to him for a little while, and then he did his set. And so similar to the encounter with Usher, it was brief, and we went our separate ways. But he struck me as somebody who values his community and who even what he was doing with rap, it always felt like it was bigger than just being a good rapper. Because honestly, he's not my cup of tea. Like he's not what I see as like a rapper's rapper. He's more, sometimes he's straight up talking. Like it's not like he's the most skillful rapper, but he does have skills. Like he makes good music. I'm not going to take that away from him. Go check out his discography. I have no hate for him as a musical artist whatsoever. But the controversy that LaRussell got into recently was in front of a crowd of people at a local event. I think this was in the Bay. It had to be because people were just so into it and it was so intimate. he performed a new record, unreleased song that came off more like spoken word than a song, but it technically had music attached. I don't even know if I can get away with playing this, but I'm gonna play the clips of it. I'm gonna play clips of it. If I have to cut it out of the video, I'll have to cut that out, and we'll talk about it after, so it's not that noticeable. But it's not only what he did in this performance, it's his response to the criticism. So we're gonna look at both. We're gonna look to how he took it in, how he responded to it, and really point out that this man has a lot of growing to do because he's only 5 years younger than me, but he has a temperament of a college kid at best, like at best.
I don't just make songs you could dance to. I also make songs you could think to. The water $10 at the fest, but the liquor is $5. That's how they defeat you.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry, y'all. I wanted to play a little bit longer than that, but like I clipped that there for a reason, because his initial statement. I'll read in the comments. His initial statement was that I make music that you can think to and not dance to, and not just dance to, right? So he wants to position himself as a thought leader, as a rapper, right? Like I say things that move people. I say things that are important, that are. I think he wants to be perceived that way, but it's not there, bro. Like you're not. Again, y'all remember I gave him props. He's talented, and at times there's a clip in this clip where in this sequence of clips where he has a nice couple of bars in there. So he's not a bad rapper, but that was bad. That was really bad, and he's not the guy when it comes to letting the work speak for itself. It's a sermon. Like the man is preaching, and so I'll let him keep going because I can just go forever on this bullshit. This is rough. Let me take myself off. I gotta get better at this switch. There we go.
Niggas don't even talk like this no more. They be arguing with me on the net about substance. The fuck going on? Show me a real nigga who ain't got vices. Show me a pastor who got rich and still righteous. Show me a God that everybody agree on. What if Jesus was on the same shit that we on? What if Jesus was on the same shit that we on?
I don't hate that. I don't hate that. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't hate the couple of bars that came before the Jesus line. I don't hate that. That was a nice little couplet, smooth. It was on beat. Okay, that's good. So I only put that in there to show y'all that he can somewhat rap, but like altogether, this is bad. This is like it's like a sermon. It's like a sermon, and for this to be an unreleased track that he's debuting, let's start with the fact that it's a bad song. And this is important for us to note, not just because I need to roast this man, right? But because it's going to reflect on his response later. It matters that we start with the fact that this is a very bad song. And then let's move on to some of the things he says in that bad song.
Hey, I'm not perfect, and neither is the president. Was guiltier than a nigga hiding evidence. You can't be mad that they heated if you don't let them vent. Even the devil was heaven sent. Even Malcolm was heaven sent. Even Martin was heaven sent. Even Kanye was heaven sent. We all heaven sent. Donald too. We all heaven sent. Epstein too. We all heaven sent. Adolf too. We all heaven sent. Even you. We all heaven sent.
So, oh man, I love watching this with y'all because it's like I was too embarrassed to finish it. Like when I was watching it, I got that like weird feeling when you're watching somebody and you're like, stop, like please stop, like oh my god, like, the secondhand embarrassment, dog. Like I was like, oh my goodness, oh man. So that's the meat of it, right? It keeps going. There's more I can show y'all in a second, but like that's the meat of it. Is it's the phrasing. So we started with the fact that this is a bad song. Like this is just unequivocally really bad. Like bad. Like you might as well just have made that up on the spot. That was like a freestyle. So let's start there. But then the even, right? So like grammatically, it's bad. And he's going to defend it later. But grammatically, saying even Martin, even Malcolm. Look, those guys had their problems, but like Martin and Malcolm are like the most universally celebrated black civil rights icons of all time. So what the fuck you mean even? And and then like lumping them in the same ballpark as Donald Trump and Epstein and Adolf. Like I'm not gonna say that he meant the worst possible interpretation of this because I know he didn't. I'm not stupid. I'm not trying to pin this man against the wall for actually supporting these people that he mentions at the end. But the phrasing of it is really bad. Like other creators have talked about it. Heaven sent means one thing. It does not mean that God created everybody. If that's what you meant, you should have said that shit. Heaven sent is always positive. That has a positive connotation. That's something you say to somebody that you're happy about who is a positive force on your life. Always. There is no wiggle room here. That is the wrong word. He shouldn't have used it. And he used it so many times. Like he may not ever live this down because of how hard he doubled down on it, especially after the fact. That's the core problem here. So remember what the core problem is. Not that like, oh, you can't speak your mind because he's going to go into that later. But like, come on, son. This is a lot.
I made this record and I sent it off to my engineer, and he calls me. He said, man, you probably shouldn't put this out. I said, why? What the hell happened? He said, you know, you talking about Epstein, there's a lot of shit going on. And I said, thank you for calling me. I'm finna drop this. That's exactly why we need it. Because everybody sit and be silent. And the goal of an artist is to express the times and say all the things that nobody else want to say or know how to say. I remember I did an event with a company called Intuit and United Masters. And they didn't really work out because in between like everything they wanted me to do, they kind of wanted me to like tone down my blackness. But they didn't want to tell me that. So, you know, they would kind of walk around it. And I remember we went all the way to Texas to do a show. And right before I go on, a lady come up to me, a white woman, and she said, could you not say the N-word? And I looked, and I smiled. Nigga, please. And I walked to that stage. I've never been so excited to go to a stage. And as soon as I got on that stage, I said, African nigga in a European whip. Like we ain't come here on no European ship. Fuck your opinions, shut your European lips. Money and murder. This nigga.
Nah, it's not it. It's not it. Not it. So as I mentioned, this is clearly, his people. They knew all the words to that last track. These are fans, obviously. I don't know if this was a paid event or what, or if this was like, family and friends, intimate base situation. But he's trying to make a point there, right? He's trying to make the point that all that bullshit we heard leading up to this is the byproduct of him speaking his mind and dropping important truths that we all need to hear uh, and the piano, and him just like being this truth teller, right? Being this source of truth that we need to respect and that we need to listen to, and that he's breaking ground, and he's being basically Kanye, like what Kanye thinks he is. Uh, that's the vibe I got this whole time. Like I'm gonna say some wild shit, completely ungrounded in anything logical, and then I'm gonna defend it by talking about free speech and my right to be a rapper and a young black man with opinions. And he made it racial with the concert that he performed at with Intuit and United Masters or whatever, or that he didn't perform at because they wanted him to hide his blackness. I've been a musician. You know what I'm saying? I've been a rapper. I performed for thousands of people at one point, and it's there's a unique amount of, I think, fake power that rushes to your head when you're in those situations. If I could describe to y'all, anybody in the chat who's never been on stage for anything, you don't have to be a musician, but if you've ever even given a presentation, a speech, anything in front of a big enough crowd, like a crowd that's big enough where you can't see anybody for real, you can only see like the front row, and then there's just hella people behind them, and you kind of have to dissociate because you can't focus on any one person. When it's that scale of an audience, it does something to your psyche. In my experience, like there's no feeling like it. There's no feeling like being on stage and having the attention of that many people and kind of controlling. You're basically controlling how their night goes. You're controlling where their attention goes. It's really powerful, right? And I personally don't think humans are built psychologically to be able to handle that over an extended period of time. It comes back to my, like, the headline of this video with fame being blinding and unhealthy. I think it's a natural state for anybody to be in for too long because it naturally makes you think that you actually have that kind of power and you're that kind of you're that important, right? But you have to realize that when the lights die down and the attention dies down, you're responsible for the things you say in between your songs. And even in your songs, if you do them the way he just did them, if they're like a sermon, you're responsible for the lyrics of your song. You can get away with a lot in lyrics, but those weren't really lyrics. That was more so that was like a spoken word performance. So I don't think that's gonna fly. So let me see. I don't think he was done. Let him finish, and then we're gonna get to his response to the criticism, which is just classic.
About revolution. I don't just make songs you could dance to.
Oh yeah, that started over at the top. So we're gonna move on to his response and what he had to say after the blowback happened, because this is crucial. Let me remove and add.
Briefed me yesterday on all the outrage, and my first thought was, niggas ain't that slow. But I go and look, and niggas that slow. Just listen to the music. Like, it's no way niggas hear that clip and they like, you support Epstein. When the world be in despair, sometimes you need realization. And that realization for me through this song was like, damn, the same God who created Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, who did so many great things, is the same God that created Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, who did so many evil things. And it's crazy the range of what a human life is capable of. It's capable of changing the world and detrimenting the world. That's the purpose of the song. That's my realization of like, damn, this is all from the same place, and look which way it can go when somebody is misguided, when somebody doesn't have all the tools, when somebody just chooses to use their life in a negligent way. Be fucking for real. It's so crazy how fast it go from black boy fly to get back in line, nigga. Y'all want a nigga to be constricted and restricted so bad. And I'm never not gonna be free. I'm never not gonna be free of my speech and free of my thought and free of my art. Artists and comedians is the niggas who's supposed to express the times and what's going on and communicate it in a way that's like, man, this is what came to me. Y'all love to create enemies and try to bash anybody who has an opposing thought to how you feel. Nigga, I ain't gotta show up how you want me to show up. This shit for me and my people and my base who resonate and connect. Everybody else can suck my dick. And there's niggas who don't do a quarter, a tenth of what I do. You niggas benefiting off shit I've done. What you do besides talk on the net? Even you haven't sent with your dumb ass. Shout out to my people who know, who been here since Do That Little Dance, who been here since Soup and Crackers, who know what's up with me. And shout out to our new niggas who just been waiting for a reason to hate a nigga. You know, that'll take the truth. Me saying Jeffrey Epstein is heaven sent is the truth. God made him too. A lot of you niggas be so religious and so spiritual and so righteous, but this is what you do with your time and your effort. Hey, don't be free as no artist. Don't say whatever message is delivered to you. Don't write what come to you. Don't share what you think about the world. You know how stupid that sound? Y'all insane. You niggas become masters so fast. Boy, you better watch your mouth. Boy, you better watch what you do. It's even retarded niggas in there like, man, you be at schools around kids. Yeah, changing their life and helping them become something and giving them journeys and careers and an example of what they could be. What you be doing for them? Your kids don't even like you. You niggas just like to be triggered. And anything can trigger y'all. Anything can move y'all niggas. The simplest thing, just hearing something, can move you and get y'all to rally against a nigga who in his community giving back. A nigga who buying out grocery stores, a nigga who taking kids to get shoes and get clothes, nigga who buying out restaurants, niggas who helping out the homeless. now I'm the enemy, because you don't like how a nigga said something or what a nigga said. Because you committed to misunderstanding. Get the fuck out of here.
Okay. There were points where I was going to pause that, but I felt like it made the most sense to let him finish his point and then, you know, deliver my criticism after. But that was a lot. Honestly, I'm sorry that I had to play that. I just, like I told y'all, context is important. I like to let people talk themselves into holes before I start criticizing them. I don't like pausing people's statements a lot unnecessarily. But yeah, that was a lot. So there was slurs. There was a copious use of the N-word. I don't personally use that word, so I'll probably have to do a whole documentary about my feelings on that word, and bring other creators into it. But my first thought, as a person who's met LaRussell and used to respect his mission, his goals as an artist, his community work, he wasn't lying about that. He does work in the community. He gives back to his community, and they very much see him as more than a rapper. They see him as an aspirational figure that, you know, made it rapping, got a deal. He's working with Even, the alternative distribution service that I've talked to y'all about before, that goes directly to the fans and makes money that way as opposed to being slaves to the streaming services. He's very innovative in how he sells his music, how he markets his music. But all of this was not it. This was, at best, I think the most positive thing I can say about it is that it was stupid as shit. Like, that's me being nice. That was deeply, deeply immature. And so that's why I brought up his age earlier, because this guy's 31 years old, man. Like, this is not a kid. He's 31, and that puts him at the tail end of millennials, right? Like, he's still a millennial at 31. So he's way too old to be dealing with this, like to be creating these straw men that he knocks down over and over again. Like, he originally started it off like creating this fake target. That's what straw men is, for those who aren't familiar with this fallacy, is you're building a fake enemy that you can then beat up on, right, in your argument, when nobody said that shit. Nobody has ever told him like, "Shut up, black boy, you can't talk." Like none of that happened. Nobody is criticizing him on that basis ever. Nobody has ever said anything to that regard. People who don't even know he was a rapper, maybe they came into the picture and started criticizing him like that. But like, that's not where this is coming from. What you made a bad song, really, really bad song. Like if history tells us anything, is that if your song slaps, you can get away with a lot of fuck shit, like a lot, like a lot. Most of the artists we look up to and revere in hip hop and R&B, they've only gotten away with some of the heinous shit they've said about women, about differently abled people, etc., because the song was good. But that was a bad song. So you made a bad song, you said some bad shit, and then in your response, you essentially belittled everybody because it wasn't just your non-fans that were criticizing you. It was your fans too. It was people who look up to you. It was people who see you as their hometown hero in the Bay. That is the problem here. That's the core problem, is that he's not able to see past the embarrassment and the pain of being called out by that many people on that big of a stage. Again, I try not to, you know, equate myself with people who are on a different level of notoriety than me because it can muddy my point. But we share experiences in that I've been a public figure for a couple years now. And I've dealt with criticism on a level that most people who do not do entertainment will never have to deal with. I've had entire comment sections telling me like, this ain't it. Like, Cam, this ain't it. You made a miscalculation. For those of you who are not new here, you know that happened very recently. So I've been through it many times on different levels, right? Videos that were super successful that I got roasted about, videos that were not successful that I got roasted about. I've never completely sold out my principles, I don't think, in a video, but I have made some bad choices. Things I overlooked. Sometimes maybe my research didn't go as far as it needed to go, didn't ask the right questions, or I had an opinion that half my audience agreed with, half my audience disagreed with. And that smoke never stops coming when you're a public person. You can't turn it off. Like, if I take 3 days off of making YouTube videos or whatever, I'm living my life, there's hundreds of people still commenting. I just don't see them. So like, it never stops coming in. And then there's the block and hidden comments that are straight up calling me slurs. So I've been there as far as taking criticism on a large scale, but I've never made obviously never made a splash like what he just did, where you did something in a performance that wouldn't have even gone that far if you didn't do it, for one. And you offended a hell of a lot of people. And you have a choice to make when you do that, right? That's why I bring up my experience with this. You have a choice to make when you make that mistake and when the smoke comes. You can either acknowledge it and decide for yourself, like, oh, is this valid criticism? Like, are they coming at me for a good reason? Did I make a misstep here? And that takes introspection, right? And that goes back to what Usher was talking about. Like, I don't look inside anymore. Maybe you should, like, because no matter how big you are, you have to keep being situationally aware of what's going on in the world, of what you say, what you put out into the world, and the impact that your words have on other people. And calling all those people heaven sent was a mistake. It was an unequivocal mistake, and he's smart enough to know that. That's the problem. If he was stupid, if he was actually a stupid man, then a lot of this would be more forgivable, actually. But he's not. He chose pride intentionally. He chose to call everybody stupid instead of dealing with the criticism straight on, course correcting, and being like, y'all know what? I used the wrong words. Here was my message. Here was what I was trying to get across. I apologize for, the offense that a lot of people took from my words, for me offending them, taking active voice instead of passive voice. I apologize for offending people and for saying things that are offensive. And here's what I'm going to do to not make those mistakes again. I'm still learning. I'm a young man, a young-ish man. All of that, any version of that would have been better than what he chose to do. That's really what it comes down to. You have to, and yeah, somebody, Gaylord SN typed in the chat, 72-hour rule. Sit on it, man. Let it think. Let it simmer. Understand what's happening. Understand where the smoke is coming from, whether it's justified, not justified. Formulate an intelligent response and deal with it. But everything about this screamed a deep, deep level of insecurity, of wanting to be Kanye adjacent, thinking that you're Kanye as far as your achievements go. I'm not saying Kanye gets away with it either, because I don't fuck with him anymore because of his actions and statements. But come on, son. Like this is a lot. And ultimately, what I really want to do, to make the point I want to make about LaRussell is that I gave him props for actually having talent earlier, right? So please don't take my statements out of context if this goes further than I anticipated going. But he's just not talented enough to do what he's trying to do. He's not a good enough lyricist. He's not a deep enough thinker. He's not introspective enough to pull off the message he was trying to pull off in the way that he tried to pull it off. I'm not even claiming that I'm better in some way. The old me would have, but I'm not a rapper anymore, so I'm not trying to get entangled in that. But I just this ain't it. This is a really, really bad look. And like I said at the top, I don't care about celebrities. Ultimately, if he crashes and burns or he rises like a phoenix and gets over this, either way, like shine, black man. As long as you don't actively hurt or abuse anybody, then do you, bro. But like, it's just, to me, it's a pattern. It's a pattern that I'm seeing with people who are in entertainment who think that they're above reproach, they're above correction, and they fire back against valid criticism in this way that it inspires the next generation, because again, he's a millennial. It inspires the next generation to be similarly irresponsible with their time and their efforts and their words. And it tells the people looking up to him, the kids who are in that crowd, who listened to him say all that about Adolf and Epstein and all that. The kids, one of the kids who had asked him a question on the mic in the crowd before that, it gives them a bad impression of what you're supposed to do with that size of an audience and with that much power, right? So I'll conclude on that and get to y'all's questions and comments.